Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now, on with the show.
You blocked me on Facebook, and now you're going to die. Now you're going to die.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Biters, podcast about The Walking Dead and all things zombie. I'm one of your hosts, Jeff Marsick, and on the other side of my Skype image is
Skype tunnel.
My Skype tunnel is Kirk Manley.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Biters. That intro was. You want to tell what that was, or?
No, go ahead.
Facebook. I've forgotten the name of the artist. Knife
Party.
Knife Party.
Yeah.
And that's the music that's playing in the van as they take off to find the inverter, the micro inverters.
Yeah.
So we just thought that would be a nice way to kick off the show.
So
I'm jamming in my seat here.
Yeah, you don't normally move that spry at your age.
Not at 9:48 at night. No, I'm lucky. I'm moving.
Well, I was hoping to wish everybody happy St. Patty's Day yesterday, but we didn't get to record. So happy day after. Hopefully everybody's recovered.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit the numbers real quick. A little bit lighter this week than last week. Last week we had 14.5 million viewers. This week, not us. Why do I do that every week? Not us as biters, but The Walking Dead. Walking Dead had 14.5 million viewers, and this week it was just shy of 13.8 million. A little bit lower, but who knows? Still wins the week. Of top-rated cable show. There's a piece that appeared in my hometown newspaper, The Plain Dealer. So if any of our listeners are from Cleveland, write in because I want to hear from you.
You know I was born there, right? Have I told you that before?
No.
Yeah, I was born in Cleveland.
Where?
In the hospital. Downtown, and whatever the main hospital is downtown. I lived there for 3 weeks. And then my family moved. So I've always rooted for the Cleveland Browns when I do root for sports teams, but they've haven't been anywhere near the playoffs in a long time. So,
No.
but yeah, I've always, whenever you talk about Cleveland, I always forget to mention that to you.
All right. Well, this was in the Cleveland Plain Dealer, and the name of the article, title of the article is How NBC and HBO Pass on The Walking Dead. Walking Dead may be the biggest show in the history of cable television, but it could just as easily have been the biggest show in the history of TV, period. That's because NBC had first crack at the zombie thriller, but decided to pass. This probably isn't the first time you've heard this story, but NBC's dismissal of The Walking Dead re-entered the spotlight over the weekend during a South by Southwest showcase hosted by the Daily Beast. The talk focused primarily on the forthcoming Walking Dead companion series set to premiere this summer. However, things got sidetracked when executive producer David Alpert recalled the struggles the showrunners had when they approached NBC back in 2005. I remember sitting down with the president of NBC at the time and saying, "You want to put this on your network?" And I held up the book, and it has a picture of a zombie with blood all over his face and scared Rick holding a gun, Alpert said during the talk. "This is never going to go on NBC." The exec said, "No, we're going to do something different and really shake things up." So we delivered the script exactly the way we said we would, and they passed. At the time, Frank Darabont had the rights to the Walking Dead TV series and produced a pilot with Alpert. According to Alpert, the NBC exec simply said the network couldn't put zombies on TV. But NBC wasn't the only network to pass. As the story goes, several cable networks turned down a TV adaptation of The Walking Dead, including HBO. The rejection by HBO is especially surprising considering the premium cable network thought the concept featured too much violence and gore. Clearly, HBO changed its mind heading into Game of Thrones. The Walking Dead eventually found a home on AMC, and the rest is TV history. Thank goodness we wound up at AMC. Makeup artist Greg Nicotero told Huffington Post back in 2012, "They totally get this show right from the beginning. They've been completely trusting and supportive of what we've been trying to do with the series." Does NBC regret its decision? Sort of, but not really. During a 2013 interview with Entertainment Weekly, NBC Entertainment chairman Bob Greenblatt called The Walking Dead a ratings anomaly. He also said if broadcast networks could put as much effort as AMC does into one show, it would be the best show you ever saw. Maybe that's true, or maybe NBC should have just picked up The Walking Dead.
Well, I'll tell you, it would not be even on the air anymore if it was at NBC, because they never could have done what they've done at AMC.
No.
You know, they never would have done the violence. They never would have had the edginess. They wouldn't have had the cursing. It just would not have been as graphic or as realistic. And it would have been so commercialized. Yeah,
if Abraham couldn't say mother dick on NBC, right. What would he be saying?
Now, HBO, on the other hand, it could have been maybe even a better series. It wouldn't have had the reach, though, because HBO, I think, has a much narrower reach. Right. But so, you know, just it may not have lasted as long as it's going to and have it spin off and everything else. But, you know, we certainly, in the end of season 4, when they're in the train car and Rick turns and says they don't know who they're fucking with, or excuse me, who they're effing with, that would not have been, you know, who they're messing with, you know. So there would have been some pluses to being on HBO, I guess. Let's see. One thing I wanted to bring up before we got too far into it was, you know, we always talk about the name of the title of the episode, this one being Spend. There was an article on uproxx.com, uproxx.com. And they reiterated the whole thing about Dale's speech and the last 2 lines. And we've gone over that already. But, you know, and really that whole speech was about time and about, you know, taking a moment. Let's see. I give it to you not that you may remember time. He's talking about the watch that the father gives to the son, but that you may forget it for a moment now and then and not spend all of your breathing trying to conquer it. There was an interesting response in the comments below that I thought was interesting. I wanted to share with our listeners. This guy Council posted, "I think that the watch speech signifies the ability for leisure or other amenities that come from safety. The father wants his son to be able," and this isn't Dale's speech, "the father wants his son to be able to forget time for a second rather than always have to conquer it. Rick's group, from being out there for so long, has lost this ability. They're always on the clock, so to speak. They always are concerned with what must be done next and when. The Alexandria community, rather, is afforded the ability to lose time because they have safety. I believe the time, watches, and the Easter egg titles relate to this theme. Alexandria gives the residents the ability to have romances and plan for the future, as well as negative aspects such as domestic abuse and getting drunk. These possibilities are just about impossible on the outside." So I believe the titles are all about striking the right balance between staying on time, safety, what Carol and Sasha are so concerned with, and maintaining the ability to lose it for a second. Rick's first taste of whiskey, Carl's chance to play video games. So I thought that was a really interesting kind of take on the whole season, and this last 5 episodes being named after that speech, and it makes a lot of sense. Plus, it would also explain a lot of the imagery of clocks this season, and all of the emphasis on time.
Except that okay, go ahead.
Especially before they get to Alexandria. Like remember with the episode in Tyrese, he sees the clocks on the, on the big grandfather clock in the street, and we see the wake up with the clock and with Beth in the hospital, and there's just all these references to time, and we keep talking about that, but I think that's all because it's tying into this idea of when you have time like the Alexandrians have, you can relax and not be so concerned about safety. But in this modern world, that makes no sense. That's bad. That's dangerous. And I'll get into more in my own analysis about why I think that's having what kind of effect that's having on our team. But
okay,
so I just wanted to share that.
Okay, I'm gonna see that explanation, and I'm gonna raise it.
Okay.
By a explanation that I found on the website, the insightfulpanda.com. The Insightful Panda usually I recommend this website because usually when it comes to reviewing, going over episodes, they do a pretty good job of coming up with some things that it's actually infuriating because I'll read the site and go, oh, I'm not smart enough. I didn't catch that. Okay, so just to go back to the quote, I'm going to back it up a sentence because one thing that's interesting that they bring up here is the sentence prior to everything that has remember, forget, spend, and conquer. The quote is, he said, I give you a mausoleum of all hope and desire,
right,
which will fit your individual needs, no better than it did mine and my father before me. Okay, so the Insightful Panda here, they say, this is their explanation. They say, this is actually Dale paraphrasing a passage from The Sound and the Fury, but it also paints us a picture of what is going on in this episode arc. It's no coincidence that this passage begins with the mention of time, and these episodes begin with Rick finally setting the time on his watch. Somewhere either here or somewhere else I saw that the mausoleum line, the reason why I brought that up is because the mausoleum is Alexandria. This is so the theory is that Alexandria was foreshadowed way back in the Vatos episode with Dale, because the mausoleum, what's a mausoleum? It's
right,
a tomb, right?
Right.
Alexandria's ringed, it's a tomb. Okay, so anyway, going back on to Insightful Panda here. Rick is finally setting a time on his watch. Everything that follows embodies these ideas, as well as the group not only tries to remember how things are, but also gets a chance to forget and enjoy themselves a bit. Though in the back of their mind, there's always a thought that they'll have to try and conquer this new paradise, and that this episode that makes them realize that they'll have to spend to do it. They also talked about how this place was... It gives them, this is that like a paradise that gives them everything that they've wanted. Each and it shows each person has they're given something that they've been looking for, something that kind of makes them whole, and we've seen that over these episodes. So when you think of the word spend, you think of something you have to pay out in order to get something, and that's exactly what this episode set the price for. From Noah's death to the group's reputation, this episode was all about the group and Alexandria paying a price in order to let things, quote, begin.
Right. No, I agree with that. I see these as I see both those theories as applicable. I think more specifically that to the term spend, and that makes sense to me. I'm going to go ahead and talk about it now since it's kind of apropos. But I think that what we're seeing, there's an emphasis on the almost PTSD scenario we keep talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Sash is suffering from it. Clearly, Abraham is dealing with it in this episode. Rick is struggling with it as well. Carol, in her own way, is dealing, is having some sort of, kind of PTSD, dealing with. She's, subjugating it a lot more, but it's coming out, as it did with Sam. And I think what that is that, when you take somebody that knows that this is happening, what the world is really like, and then put them in this environment that is in complete denial almost of what's going on, and ask them to ignore that and get back to living life, drinking beers and worrying about, cookies and stuff. It creates huge anxiety inside it. It would any normal person who's thinking, every time I'm sitting here having cookies and this and that, there's zombies building up on the outside. There's people who might be checking us out and planning on attacking us, and we're not ready for that. That's creating huge anxiety inside of them. And I think what's building and so artfully done in this episode is that is coming to a crescendo, where there's going to have to be a change in the paradigm of Alexandria, or else, there's going to be a huge conflict, because they can't keep living like that. They cannot run this place, live with this place, or live inside of this place, going about it as if the outside is not there, and it will kill them, literally as well as emotionally. So, I just thought that's really cool, really well done in this episode too. How many headshots do you give it?
Oh, I'm struggling with it because I don't know. On the one hand, I want to give it 4.5, but then I don't know if that's lowballing, and then I don't know if my negatives, if my bads are enough to really warrant that. I don't know. I mean, I'm between like a 4.8 and a 4.5. Like it's up there.
I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 4.8. It's there's just so little to be disappointed with this episode.
There really is, yeah.
The acting was great, the story was great, the characters' movement and development was great. The the shock of losing people was great. Although I have to admit, I hate to tell you this, I was spoiled. It's the first time it's ever happened. I got spoiled online. The whole thing about
I did too.
Oh my God!
I did too.
Like, that was the worst kept secret ever online.
But the thing is like I didn't believe it. Like I read it and I was like, yeah, okay, and it seemed legit.
Yeah.
And then
I was
like,
hoping it wasn't, but then
so I discounted it, and then when it started unfolding,
yeah.
right
Well, as
from
soon
the
as
jump,
as soon as it opened up with him sitting down with as we'll talk about, and I was like, oh Jesus Christ, it's not, it's for real.
Yep,
It's for real. Again, before we get too into it, again, in my top notes, I had a little quick thing that doesn't really have to do with the episode, but someone on Unbitten, a Walking Dead community, which is on TV.com, Ione24, IONEE24, posted, it just hit me that Aiden's brother, Spencer, who met Sasha at the door to the party and seemed to kind of have a twinkle in his eye with her, and seemed like he liked her, has just developed a major thing in common with Sasha. They both have lost their only brother. Which I thought was kind of an interesting observation, a very cool, insightful observation. Okay, let's get into the good. What do you got?
Oh, where do I start?
I know my notes are all over the place, so
we apologize to everybody.
Wait a minute, I forgot tweets of the week. Tweets of the week.
Oh, that's right. Back up.
Back up. Rob, run the tweets of the week. Okay, we got a couple here that are Gabriel centric, of course. Gabriel was the ire of many on Twitter that evening. At the Rick Grimes, dear Gabriel, go F yourself. Sincerely, Ricky Grimes. I love the Ricky. At Immortal Dixon, after saving Father Gabriel's life, he snitches the group. Don't worry, the curse of the too many black people on the show will get you.
Yep.
At Coral Grimes, I wonder if that's supposed to be Carol. Anyway, at Coral Grimes, okay, Father Gabriel, don't be surprised when you wake up tied to a tree in the middle of nowhere. Carol's going to get the Gabriel. At ZADF_org, Father Gabriel is about as useful as a red light in Grand Theft Auto. That was cute. And then when he was ripping the pages out of the Bible, at Herschel Green 1 wrote, Gabriel, I'm pretty sure that's a sin.
I saw somebody wrote somewhere someone writing a review. They said that that they kind of hoped he kept going because in future generations, someone's going to come to Alexandria, find the Bible, and think that it starts at Deuteronomy.
So there was lots of people tweeting that they thought he was going to roll up a bone. Use the paper to make his own cigarettes or make his own stuff. Anyway, at Renee, I don't know, Renee 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 652003. Rick is going to go in Shane on Pete. At Too Short 35. Okay, so they lost 3 people, possibly 4. I think it's time to leave Alexandria. At Banff _Walker. Aiden didn't make it. Glenn. Thank you, Deanna. Remember how she thanked him for punching him? Yep. I don't think she's going to be as grateful for having him get lost at Glenn's hands. Jamie at JLKKLO15. Jelko. Eugene is doing something useful. Are you guys sure we're watching The Walking Dead? At Jen in Woodbury. The termite's second favorite dish, Aiden kebab. At Liberty S Geek. At least they let Noah get through Black History Month. Oh, that's cold. The at the _Deatons. Mother Dick, this week's porch dick. All right, that's it for tweets of the week.
And now the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Good, the bad, and the ugly intro. Bum-ba-da-da.
Okay. Okay, so like I said, there's so much to like, and for some reason, I don't know, for some reason I was coming into this episode, I was preloaded not to like it. For some reason, I just was ready to just nitpick the crap out of it. And then everything just started going, in the directions that it did. And so let's start off with, first of all, the first thing that I had a note of is Daryl's got a new hot bike.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, and I love the fact that we didn't see him put it together. We didn't see any ceremony. It's just the gate opens up, there he is on the bike. Yeah. I was like, where the hell did that come from? And cool, It
was cool. It was very cool. I have no concept of the time frame though. He certainly didn't. I mean, it had to be more than a day or two for him to put that thing together, right?
Well, it was like in pieces, like before.
I know that's at least a week's worth of work, maybe more. Plus, it was implied that they didn't have all the parts. So I don't know if they were trying to say that a lot of time has passed since the last episode, or I don't know. But it was cool to see it. And the other thing I was really grateful for is it wasn't like some totally ridiculous chopper that that just makes no sense.
I could just see him with the monkey bars,
which is how he used. Right, that's the first bike he had. Right, this thing is built for what he's going to be doing. It's got big knobby off-road tires. Yep. It's got a huge grill on the headlight. I mean, it was badass. It looked like it walked out of Road Warrior. I loved it. Yeah. I loved it.
I like the scene with Noah and Reg, although the thing that I just couldn't figure out is just the conversations that they had about, clearly they had been having several of these meetings. This wasn't the first time they had met for steel cut oatmeal on the little porch there or veranda there. So I like that interaction with them, and I like the fact. And I think that's one of the things that just makes what happens to Noah at the end even more tragic, is that you've got Noah who's sitting there, teach me about how to build things. I want to know how, although I was writing dialogue in my head. Who is it? Laura Wilswink, she wrote in saying that she hasn't had a chance to give the episode a second viewing yet. She needs to do a second viewing solo because when she watches it with her husband, they do like a Mystery Science Theater 3000 kind of thing. I do the exact same thing when I'm watching it. I'm like, when he sits there, he goes, "Can you teach me how to build things? I want to know how to, put reinforcements on the wrong side of the wall." So
I want to build things like an ass. I want to build crappy things that fall apart and are unsafe.
Show me how to doom the entire
Show me how to be inept.
But I thought that was a really good scene, and I liked Reg handing him the notebook and is like, no, you
Yeah.
go ahead, you write it, and
Yeah.
so uh, one so all right,
Well, I'm
let's see
gonna before you
Go
go on, I mean, just to speed things up, I'll chime in with my comments for that particular section as well, on the good front. I also like that scene. Um, I think that the thing I thought was interesting was when Deanna's husband says, I think he's foreshadowing not only, I think he was foreshadowing not only Noah's death, but I think probably his own death. When he says, quote, I will still be around when you're my age.
Mhm.
Because he says to him about, well, when I'm your age or whatever. And he's like, hey, I'm still going to be here when you're my age.
Right.
And I was like, oh boy, that means Noah's dead. But I think that also means you're probably dead, dude. And it reminded me very much it was kind of a callback to Deanna's comment to Judith about how she envies her that she'll get to see what Alexandria becomes.
Yeah.
As kind of foreshadowing that she's not going to make it,
Yeah, you don't throw those lines. Those lines don't just get written in without having
Right.
some weight behind them.
And then certainly when he says, I'm in it for the long haul, that's when he said, oh boy, ticket punched. On Talking Dead, is it Chris Tyler? Is that his?
Chris Hardwick.
No, who's the guy that was Noah?
I
Tyler. Is Tyler's
don't
first
remember.
name or last name?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. But anyway, the actor pointed out, that his desire to he expresses a desire to want to reinforce the walls, and Reg is kind of you can tell he's kind of a little taken back by it, kind of like, are you implying that they're not good? You know what I mean? And the actor was saying that that came from Noah's fear that what happened at his own community, might come to Alexandria.
Yeah.
So kind of foreshadowing the wolves and that idea that that they're not safe enough, those walls yet. So
So that actor was in Everybody Hates Chris, right?
yeah.
So somebody tweeted, when his demise comes in, they're like, everybody eats Chris.
Yeah, everybody ate. That was all over Twitter. I didn't even bother putting that in my tweets of the week because it was just like it was everywhere.
Okay, so our gang that goes in to go get the solar
the micro emitters or something, right? I knew it at the top of the show.
So my question was when they needed this thing, was it because this was a new system, a prototype that? Because I thought Reg called it a prototype at one point.
Micro converter.
So, but was this
converts it converts the solar? I saw this on Talking Dead. The solar charge is AC or DC? DC, I think, and the micro converter converts it to AC so that you can use it to in wall power.
So the question I had was that because we had just seen, I think, prior to that maybe we had just seen no, it was after that. Well even after that, there was Rick and Jesse talking about how her owl got destroyed, which we found out later why, but between that and then you need this device when it was working fine before. So I thought maybe was there sabotage involved and that's why they had to go get them. I don't think so.
No. Reg says to Deanna that was the whole power system and the whole power grid was a prototype.
Right.
He said, I'm surprised it's taken this long to start having bugs and problems.
Yeah.
And then they also implied that, or said that it was not the whole grid, it was just one portion of it. So there were only certain houses, like Carol's house still had power, like when she cooks the cookies for him, but Sam's house was out of power. Because he complains, I don't want to go back and do it in my house because I don't have any power.
Right.
So it was just kind of a small portion, but they needed to get a drop on it because it probably would chain react, I would think. I want to just back up for 1 second. There was one other thing at that scene with Reg and Noah in the opening. The book he gives them and the term he writes in the book, of course, we see later even more pronounced. And it says, this is how it begins, I think is something. And literally within the context of the story, and Reg says, this is the beginning of this place. You need to record it. And there's, that's kind of the little, but I think the implied or subtext is that it's the beginning of this place for real. And that's because Rick and and his people are here, and they're going to change this place and make it, something that can survive in the current world. And it is the beginning, but it's not the beginning of Alexandria as Reg knows it. It's going to be a new Alexandria.
And then when we see it in the van at the end, then it's got that other subtext that this is the candles lit. This is how the end game is. Yeah, this is how it begins.
Exactly.
I liked the group going into the warehouse. I mean, Aiden was relatively not as douchebaggy as he normally is, and I liked Tara pairs up with Eugene, and in the beginning, I read a note that Eugene's just a d-bag, and he's a coward. But the thing is at least he admits, he comes out front. He doesn't hide behind. He's like, I'm a coward. I've told you I'm a coward. And when everything happens inside the warehouse, and Tara gets hurt, and he's still holding on to his cowardice. He's the group's resident cowardly lion. When he's got her near him and he's looking for a way out and he looks out that window, I thought he was going to make a bolt for it and leave her behind. I thought he was going to pull. And then when I see him coming out carrying her over his shoulder, I was like, holy cow, And so it was. I'm about to say some words I have never said in the entire arc that Eugene has been on. I really liked Eugene this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I just really being the cavalry that arrives, turns on the music and draws the walkers away from the revolving door, stands his ground with Christopher.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
The other thing that was fantastic about it is the contrast with Team Alexandra, who are all about leaving people behind and deserting and abandoning. And even though this guy is Team Rick's cowardly lion, to use your phrase, and I think is accurate, even their biggest cowardly lion has more balls than these Alexandria people. And when I never had that feeling that he was going to ditch her, because when he sends them out to go get that stuff, because he says that's what she would want, and then he says, I will defend her, and you can count. I don't remember how he said it, but he said it in typical Eugene way, But he basically said, I will die defending this girl. You know what I mean? And you don't have to worry about that. And I totally believed him. And at that point, I knew he was committed. And it was awesome to see him step up.
And the thing about it too is that he wasn't. If you see it on some movies or TV shows, there's such an abrupt change in a character that it almost is cartoonish and unbelievable. But the actor played it so well, and it just seemed to be a natural progression, a natural maturity in him to go from the coward to, he fired off some rounds, and he wasn't a dead shot, and he was. It was great.
Well, I think the other thing is that for me, he's like super smart, but he was also super coward. So, but now when you see the smart combined with start to get courageous and stepping up, it's really cool. Like when I'm kind of jumping ahead a little on that scene, but when he pulls up in the van and Nicholas is screaming at him to get out, like he's completely different. He's kind of like, he's now like, I just saved this girl's life, and I'm trying to save my other buddies' lives. I'm not about to just step aside and let you freaking dick everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
So he pulls the keys out of the car and steps out.
Yep.
I mean, that was really, it was continued that, it's like courage breeds courage, I think, and I think his saving Tara, just really kind of kept elevating him, and that to that point where he was able to do that to Nicholas now, and but to your point, they don't completely take away everything of he's still who he is. So he goes to confront Nicholas, he goes to pull out that gun, and he's fumbling over himself. And of course Nicholas is on top of him in no second and would freaking eat him alive, So but he was going to die trying, So yeah, I totally agree with you. I loved him in this episode.
And one of my favorite scenes has to be Abraham finally,
Wait! Before you jump to that, how about when Eugene's line, "The shit will be right. I will install said shit."
yeah,
Because he did not want to go, but that was so funny. It was a great line. On the van, the van has the huge bird on the side,
Mhm.
and
Oh, right,
and I
yeah.
thought that's kind of there's a couple not metaphors, but birds are in at least two big scenes. This one with the big bird on the side of the truck, it was very prominent. I wonder if that's, to help kind of show that, this newfound courage, kind of the phoenix rising kind of scenario, especially out of the ashes of his DC lie.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I mean, he really burnt himself to the ground with that lie, and he's really, redeeming himself with this action here. So I think I saw that as significant to have that, because I mean, when you see that shot, he's leaning out the car, and it's like all bird on the side of the thing, phoenix, or some sort of huge bird. Now, in all fairness, I did do a little research, and in the book, they find a van that's just like that, and it has the bird on the side. So they may have just been trying to be authentic to the book, but it certainly also fit nicely with the story in that
Sure.
shot. Yeah. Okay. If you
All
want,
right.
you want to jump to Abraham.
Yeah. So Abraham, it's about time that he assumes a
I knew you were
leadership
going to
position, and I mean, it was
the whole time I'm watching, I'm thinking Jeff's like so happy to see this.
yeah, I mean, it was just about time, and it was great, and I love that him going out and saving Francine was how it inspired, one of the other guys, when Tobin, right, is trying to pull everybody back, and that dude is stepping forward. What are you doing? He's like, you see that guy out there? He's still out there. I'm still out there, and to Tobin's credit, look, everybody in Alexandria pretty much has a bad reputation, right? We don't like, everybody has some kind of character flaw that we don't like, especially Aiden and Nicholas, Pete, Tobin. So Tobin's here, and he sits and, he's leaving Francine out there for dead and calling everybody back. But then what does Tobin do? I'm kind of jumping forward here. Tobin goes to Deanna and is just like, Abraham should be leading that detail, because he did what I couldn't do. And I thought that was great. Like,
Yeah.
he
Absolutely.
redeemed himself, by doing that, admitting that, I sucked, and that's the guy you want. So anyway, but Abraham getting out there, my favorite part is him running out, grabbing Francine, putting her in the bulldozer, and then when he gets surrounded, he just gets that cocky little grin on his face, and he goes, "Mother dick." And I mean, you just know that he's back in his element. Like, this is where he should be. So
Well, again, that scene starts, though, again, so artfully, with him having kind of this mundane conversation. It looks like a real kind of construction site. He's looking around. You can tell he feels completely uncomfortable there. The way that it's all going about and everything else. And the guy goes to the bathroom. You see the birds fly up.
Sends a fax to Cleveland.
Yeah, sends a fax to Cleveland. The birds fly up, and with the birds flying up, which is either some sort of symbolism or a sign of the impending,
That's what I
the guy.
took it.
The guy went back there to do that, and then the birds come, and it's kind of an impending zombie attack. But he starts to have an anxiety attack. He starts breathing heavy. He gets wobbly on his feet. He has to hold onto the side of the truck. The sound starts to elevate the way that it did in the Sasha sequence in the opening of last week's episode, where you're getting this kind of heightened chaos noise in the background to almost then zombie noise that sounds like it's in his head. And then all of a sudden it's real. You realize it's real, and there's a zombie attack, and he just completely goes into beast mode, and I think, again, it was this idea that as long as they're trying to go about life like the zombie apocalypse is not happening, that they're doing these mundane jobs and acting like it's a normal day at the office, they're not dealing with reality, and that is stressful. you know, and he knows the truth and he knows what it's really like, and then boom, it happens. The other amazing thing, I think, not amazing, but the cool thing about this episode, and it was really demonstrated with the Abraham sequence, is the constant contrast between the Alexandrian people and their not only lack of knowledge about what the real world is going on, but their their unwillingness to help each other in a crisis, to abandon each other, to retreat and let their people die. And in contrast, every time that's going on in one scene, then you get a scene with one of Rick's people who are stepping up and trying to save and trying to help and trying to, survive. You know what I mean? Not just like, write off people. And it was a stark contrast that constantly played back and forth throughout the episode.
The other thing I liked too was after repelling the walkers, Abraham keeps everybody on point and says, "All right, well, we came here to do a job. Let's finish it up." And I thought that's another just the command presence that Abraham has that I hope that we continue to see more of.
Absolutely. Well, again, he's like looking at it like. Remember, he starts off by saying, how long did they say this was going to take?
Right.
Because he's looking around, he's thinking, this shouldn't take 4 months to do or 4 weeks to do or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the guy says, well, the last time it took so many months or whatever. And he's thinking to himself, well, first of all, the longer we're out here, the more dangerous it is.
Right.
We got to get this shit done. You know what I mean? So that's when you're right. He's like, if we're going to be out here doing this, we're going to do it right so that we get it done and we get it done fast. You know what I mean? And safe.
Those are,
and I agree, and I totally agree with you. I mean, I think this is the first time that I felt like, that the character really got a chance to reach some of its potential for this show. They just haven't done anything with him yet in any concrete way. Even the episode Self-Help, where it was mostly about him, I never felt like, they really, and here I felt they finally captured some of that character that we saw in the comic and what his potential could be in this scenario. You know what I mean?
Yeah, his entire existence on the show up until this episode has basically just been posturing. He's a big guy. He's just been a physical presence. That's it. Right. And that's all they've been. That's all they've done with him.
I mean, his whole thing with Eugene in the beginning of it, he was almost cartoonish. Right. I remember you being critical of the fact that their lines were cartoonish. The idea of following this nimwit was cartoonish. The whole thing just he seemed like a guy playing soldier. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
In this week's episode, he was a sergeant and he took charge of the situation. He saved lives and now he's running the show. And it just felt totally right. You know what I mean?
The other big good I have is just the structure of the show. I mean, you had a show finally where we've talked about it for a couple episodes about how it was very centric on the trinity of Rick, Carol, and Daryl. And Michonne and maybe one other, but we've lost the rest of the cast. Where's everybody else? You have an episode where
yes, good point.
We hit everybody.
Yeah,
Michonne,
excellent point. Yeah, Michonne wasn't there. Sasha, we didn't get much with Maggie, but that's fine. I mean, you don't have to hit everybody every episode, but you shouldn't be focusing on 2 or 3 people every episode when you've got a whole ensemble. I agree.
Jennifer Lynch wrote this script, and I thought she did a great job of she gave you just enough at every point. There wasn't, too much.
Now, Jennifer, you're saying Jennifer Lynch wrote the script. Wasn't the daughter of the other Lynch was the director, right? Carol Lynch or something was the director.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jennifer Lynch was the director. Matthew Negrete wrote it.
Okay, sorry. I thought it was really well directed.
Yeah.
I'd love to see her back. A couple other quick Abraham notes. He again, the contrast between Alexandrian people and Team Rick people, it never even passes his mind to leave Francine. And I thought, the dialogue was hilarious. Mother Dick, obviously, which you talked about, was fantastic. It trended on Twitter right afterwards. But the other great line was when he comes out on the other side and she throws her the gun and he says, "You get the ass end, I'll get the uglies in front."
Yeah.
That was great, man. You know what I mean? And he looks like he's in his glory when he's taking out those stuff.
Well,
Then
that was another thing. Hold on, just to mention
Yeah,
that.
sure.
So that was another thing that I thought was there were two things about that scene. Again, just showing how inept and just how these people should not be out trying to do a work party when, first of all, you're shooting so wild that you hit the hydraulic on
I know.
the bulldozer, and two, Francine gets dumped in the ground, right?
Right.
Where's she crawling? She's crawling toward danger, not not crabbing away. It just again just shows people that are just don't
totally
know what they're doing.
inexperienced. And then he confronts the guy Tobin, and said, "Is that how it works with you guys? You leave people to die?" And the guy says, "We have a system."
Right.
And so, basically that system is to leave people to die. So, I mean, and it's the same thing that we kind of saw from Aiden and Nicholas,
Yeah.
And, when things get hot, you just leave people to die. So, and that's just not how, it's so funny because Deanna talks about, or not Deanna, actually, I think it was Aaron who talked about in the episode before they get to Alexandria about how people are so important now in the apocalypse. They're the most important commodity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's true, but you don't treat your most important commodity by just writing it off constantly,
Right.
or you're going to be out of it quick.
Right.
So,
All right. So what are your goods?
oh my God. Well, I've been kind of chiming in. I thought, let's see, I'll go back to the beginning here, the stuff I haven't hit yet. Okay, so I did this little recap that I thought you're going to kick out. Good. Every sequence was badass. Carol and Sam was wonderful. Rick and Pete, tense. Team Glenn, riveting and heart-wrenching. Deanna and Gabriel, infuriating. Abraham, uplifting and perfect. So, I think I forgot Eugene in there. But I couldn't let it go at that. So I loved Eugene holding the pistol over the seat, over the knocked out Nicholas in the back. And to me, it was definitely, a tip of the hat to the Pulp Fiction scene in the car when Travolta is leaning over the back with the pistol and the kid's in the back, and he accidentally they go over a bump. Mm-hmm. And he blows the kid's head, and there's blood everywhere, and it looked just like that shot. I haven't read anywhere that that's what they did, but it looked just like that shot because he's leaning the same way, he's holding the pistol the same way, and there's blood all over his hands and everywhere, and it just looked like it was a total takeoff of that scene in Pulp Fiction. I love that they have Carol discovering Pete's abusive behavior instead of Rick. Right. It's a great way to tie her backstory into it and it makes a lot of sense that she would be tuned into that, I also found it totally interesting, totally original writing, and to have the kid become attracted to Carol after that horrific encounter.
Yeah.
I mean, it was totally counterintuitive, but it just totally made sense because I think what it is that, he saw it, he was terrified of her, but in that moment of terror, he realized how strong she was, and he realized how capable she was and how she was going to protect herself and protect whoever she cared about. And he latched onto that because he needs protection right now, or his mother does. And so he's completely attracted to her, and it just makes total sense. And after the week before his episode, I would never have expected that.
Right.
And then the other thing that was great about that whole sequence was that, he's definitely melting her heart. He's working his way into her heart, and he's going to take the edge off of her a little bit, which is so cool because we know she has a soft spot for kids. You know what I mean?
And that kitchen scene between the two of them was great. That should be on my good list too. That was a great scene.
She says, "These are not problems. I don't care about you."
Right.
It was fantastic. Here she is. She's trying so hard to be obnoxious to this kid to get him to go away, and he's just glomming on even harder, and that's when she gets wise to, well, something's up here, and that was just so well done. And she's an amazing actress. She just never ceases to.
She's gotten so much better this season.
Oh, it's amazing. Another thing I loved was just the theme of abandonment all over. I mean, obviously, it's mainly in the sense of the Team Rick in comparison or contrast to Team Alexandrians, but Aiden's confession about how they abandoned the previous group. Nicholas abandons Aiden, then he abandons Glenn and Noah. The construction crew abandons Francine. Father Gabriel at the altar ripping pages out of the Bible is kind of abandoning his faith. It's just it was a lot. I thought that was really a strong theme throughout. I liked. The whole opening with Gabriel, this again, another quiet opening. I thought it was really cool. I saw a comment online that someone suggested that Gabriel might be being pressured into trying to get Rick's group tossed out. And he kept saying that Satan hides himself as an angel of light. And this person said, could that be referring to Aaron, since he is a guiding light to Alexandria? He is also an outsider. Maybe he is a mole for the wolves. Getting Rick's group out would make Alexandria easy pickings. I don't think it's at all Aaron, but it was kind of a neat little twist. But I do think that there's a possibility that he's not necessarily talking about Rick in particular when he's saying Satan hides, in the shining light or whatever the exact terminology was. I personally think, though, he could be talking about somebody else or something else. I think he's projecting his own inner guilt onto Team Rick. When he rats to Deanna about the group, I think he's really talking about himself. He's the devil taking the form of shining light, being a minister. And it could also be taken as a metaphor for Alexandria. Maybe it's kind of the shining beacon of hope, but maybe it's actually a potential hell. But to me, I think he's just incredibly guilty about what he did and what he did on the outside. And he's so much of a coward that he can't come to terms with that. So he wants to get Team Rick out of there so that he doesn't have to see them to remind him of what he's done, So instead he's, projecting all of that onto them and all the horrible things they did. So in the hopes that Deanna will, I think so he's freaking nuts basically is the bottom.
Yeah, but wasn't that scene with Douglas or Deanna, wasn't that taken directly from the comic book? So there's nobody pressuring him. So that was taken.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, but they could change it for the TV show. But I'm just saying this was like suggestions. Yeah, I think it's a stretch. But I thought it was kind of interesting. No, I hadn't thought of that as a possibility.
Well, the other thing too is that when he comes in and he talks about Satan cloaks himself as an angel of light. Well, he's talking about himself.
Right.
And I don't know. It was having read the comic.
He's saying it's Rick and Team Rick, but I agree with you. I think he's really talking about himself because he feels. He's done what he did was as horrible to anything that he saw done by Rick and those guys. Granted, their butchering of the termites was pretty brutal in that church, but once he found out that they were cannibals and had eaten some of their people, there had to be some feeling that this was, vengeance or justice. The fact that he left his own flock outside to die, so that he would survive. And he's doing it again. Yeah. He's doing it again. I thought the opening, again, with the quiet opening was really cool. His reaction to the note that's when he's ripping the pages out of the Bible, which I assume, I don't know what you think, but I assume that means he's kind of like lost his faith. Mm-hmm. Would you agree? What do you think the symbolism of him ripping the pages out of the Bible?
Oh yeah, that he's just he doesn't have faith in it. It wasn't the note so much that I'd read somewhere that the strawberries have meaning. Strawberries mean in
they're symbolic.
Catholic faith. They're symbolic of like purity or something.
Yeah, what I got was that the strawberries are symbolic of righteousness and spiritual merit in Christian art. He also has a piece of art that's behind him that's hanging, and he's framed on either side by the windows, which are showing the community on either side, which kind of puts him physically in the middle. So I think in the beginning of the episode, we're seeing that he is distraught and he's in the middle of the situation, and he hasn't kind of taken a side. He hasn't chosen, which side of this thing he's going to fall on. Mm-hmm. And by the end, we see he's fallen on the Alexandrian side. I also thought it was interesting that the note says, Father or something, we're so blessed to have you. And it just makes him wicked agitated. You know what I mean? Because he does, again, he's guilty. He doesn't feel he deserves for anybody to tell him that they're blessed to have him there or whatever. But it was also signed by Rosemary. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So I looked up rosemary, legend in history, and it's also known as the herb of remembrance. The rosemary is native to the Mediterranean, Portugal, and Spain, and brought to Britain with the Roman armies, which I thought was kind of interesting because kind of the Roman armies coming into Alexandria here. The name comes from Latin, rose, R-O-S, which means dew, and marinus, meaning of the sea. It was later called Rose of Mary, or Rosemary, in honor of the Virgin Mary and the legend that she laid her cloak on a white rosemary bush and turned its flowers blue. In the myths, rosemary has a reputation for improving memory and has been used as a symbol for remembrance during war commemorations and funerals in Europe and Australia. Mourners would throw it onto the graves as a symbol of remembrance for the dead. In Shakespeare's Hamlet, Ophelia says, quote, "There's rosemary, that's for remembrance." So I think the rosemary, her name being Rosemary, is symbolic, of his inability to forget or forgive the horrible things that he did out in the world. He's if Rosemary's remembrance, that's what he can't stop forgetting what he's done out there and how guilty he feels about it. And I think when he sees Team Rick, he constantly reminds him of that. So that's what I think his goal of ratting them out is, to try and get them out so that he doesn't have to feel guilty anymore. Let's see. I agreed. I thought the whole warehouse adventure with Glenn and Noah and Eugene, and I thought that it was fantastic. I thought, the other thing I think is that a lot of people too, before I get into this, a lot of people I saw online seemed to be confused. I think it's because of the silencer that was on Aiden's gun. He had a small, like Uzi type or automatic machine gun type gun, but he had a big, huge end on it, which was a silencer. But it did look like a grenade launcher, in some respects, because a lot of people online seem to think that he shot a grenade at the thing. But it was clear that the soldier had grenades on him, right. And then when he was shooting him, he blew up the grenade. I thought that.
How's that ROTC training for you?
Yeah, right. Glenn is just like completely transformed at this point. I mean, so much. I think he's completely believable as a badass. I love the harness with the gun that he had around his chest this time. You know what I mean? That looks so cool. Aiden even now respects him. They get there and Nicholas is like, "Nah, we're just gonna go out the front, blah blah blah." And then there's kind of silence, and Glenn was like, "We got to check the whole thing out first." And there's silence, and then Aiden's like, "Yeah, so we'll check everything out first," like Glenn says. And he's like definitely saying, Aiden's finally getting smart. What I mean? And you can see Glenn's the one leading them in. And he's starting to believe in Glenn. He's starting to follow Glenn, which again ties into that whole, the Team Rick people are leaders. You know what I mean? And but I think that what they've done with his character, I think back to season 3 when they had him, acting like he was in charge at the prison. Right. Remember when Rick's gone and the whole thing's going on with the governor, and it was just like, oh my God, it was uncomfortable. It was unbearable. Remember? Yep. And it was just like, so I think it's the writing has just improved, and maybe his acting has improved. I don't know, but he's completely believable now, in my opinion,
I think it's a combination of both of those, but I also think that the character too has evolved into he's become more of a leader. He's on these little war parties that go out, and he's the de facto leader because he's the guy with the head on his shoulders. And he's so much more so than he was in the comic. In the comic, he got stronger, but not like this. And he kind of has to, because look at who his crew is. His crew is Tara and Noah. Neither of them are going to step up, and Aiden clearly, even though he's got ROTC training, he clearly is a knucklehead. So Glenn is basically forced into a position where he's got to be the guy to keep everybody alive.
Right. And I loved how, from a writing perspective, they were again demonstrating. You got lots of examples of Team Rick showing their courage and their strength and their fighting ability, like Abraham in his sequence. But there was also a lot about intelligence and the idea. Glenn says, first we're going to check out all the different exits in the whole building and all that kind of stuff. That was a smart thing. Then when they get inside and they hear the zombies, and Glenn says they're stuck behind something. Aiden's like, how the hell do you know that?
Right.
And he's like, well, I don't, but they're not here. So that means that, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like, and then Tara, I think, says, well, we were out there a while, you know what I mean? And again, it was just a beautiful way to just show how much more sophisticated these people are and how much more well-trained they are. The whole sequence in the warehouse was like lit great, the smoke, the claustrophobic sense. Nicholas shouts out that Aiden is dead. Then when they're in the office and Aiden wakes up, he says, oh, I thought I checked him. That's total BS.
Right.
And another signal that the future was bleak for Noah was when Glenn was startled by him in the shadows. He comes out and he looks just like a zombie. I thought it was a real nice touch, you know what I mean? Because at first he's like, whoa, like he's going to shoot him. And then it's like, oh, it's Noah, So that, I just thought that whole sequence was awesome. We talked about Eugene. We talked about Carol already. I thought another good was the Pete and Rick sequence. Both are a little creepy.
Right.
Loved the line, don't tell me you're on duty. And he says, I kind of always am. And again, that to me was a subtle way, again, with the writing in the dialogue to continue this whole theme of the episode, which was, that's the difference. You know what I mean? I have to be on duty all the time in this world. That's the only way you survive. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I thought that was cool. And then, they really, when he makes the comment about his wife, what a punch in the balls, huh?
Oh yeah.
Pete. Oh my gosh. And then again with the writing, the dialogue, Pete says, we have lost things, fighting to hang on to things. All you people have been through, with all that you people have been through, I don't know if you see that. And Rick says, we do. But, clearly Rick's thinking, yeah, you've lost things, and you're trying to hold on to things, but those things are the way that the world used to be.
Right.
And that's a problem. I thought it's like freaking weird that he keeps asking to see his kids or him to come in for a medical exam.
Yeah.
That's just creepy.
Yeah.
It's
There's just something
weird.
off about Pete.
Totally. Daytime drinking, always a bad sign. Let's see. How about when Rick sees Jesse about the whole owl thing? I don't know if this is me projecting onto or reading into it or whatever, but when he says to Jesse, I got to do something today, she says, well, you got better. He's like, well, I got to do something today. His eyes linger on her a little.
They did.
I thought, yeah, right? It was kind of like I was thinking, Rick's thinking, yeah, I'd like to do you today.
Exactly.
Yeah. But let's see. I thought the scene with Deanna, with Tobin, you already talked about it a little bit. I thought that was a great scene. But
she's a little resistant to it.
Well, what's really great about that scene is that it's not so much she's resistant, it's that she's starting to realize that she's brought these people in and that they're quickly taking over a lot of powerful positions, and it's starting to make her feel nervous. It's starting to make her concerned. That she's going to lose control of the situation. And there was a moment of panic there. The first that I think, she's always come across as so confident of what she's doing. And now all of a sudden it's kind of starting. And I think the fact that conversation and that concern in her, which was clear, is coming just as they are coming home from their trip to find out that her son is dead, is like that's going to be like a major straw on the camel's back.
Well, this is going to be. We've got division already started. She's got, she's hearing about how basically her work crew is dysfunctional, and one of the newcomers is a better leader than what she's got. So she's lost that front. Then she's got Gabriel coming to her and basically saying, you made a mistake. These people are not good people.
Right.
So he's putting that seed of doubt in her head. Now you know
Yep.
what's going to happen next, right? Nicholas is going to come back and paint the picture that it was Glenn and these guys that effed up the entire run and got her son killed. So now you got Deanna caught in the middle of that. That's the powder keg that's going to get set
Right.
off, because that's what Nicholas is going to do.
Right. Yep. I think the only thing that makes me question if that's what's going to happen is because we're all expecting that to be what happens.
So here's what. So when you've got the internal strife going on, oh, and by the way, you're going to add that your chief constable. Yeah, it's going to come out about he's going to do something to Pete, right? And there's going to be a girl involved. That's going to add another layer to it. So while you got all this stuff going on in the quote-unquote mausoleum, that horde is coming from the outside.
Yeah.
/ the scavengers or the wolves.
Right.
So you don't have a defense going because your interior is in shambles. That's a perfect time for the bad guys to come in and attack. Now what do you do? And I think that when I came to the end of this episode, seeing all those little pieces being moved about, I think that's what's the last 90 minutes is getting set up for.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think you're right, and I think it's gonna be badass. One other interesting contrast I thought was between Noah and Gabriel. It seems to me that both of them, were saved by Team Rick, and clearly Noah feels indebted to Team Rick for saving his life and bringing him along, and clearly Gabriel does not.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And I think Noah kind of sacrifices himself almost to help the group continue on in the end. And when he turns to Glenn and says, don't let go, obviously, literally, he's saying, don't let them, don't let me go and don't let them eat me. But he's also kind of subtext wise, I think, saying, don't let go of this opportunity. Don't let go of Alexandria. Don't let go of this chance to kind of start again.
Right.
And obviously his book, this is how it begins. And in contrast, Gabriel is ready to sacrifice the group to help ensure that he continues, just like he did with his congregation. So, just a great juxtaposition of the two, I thought, throughout the whole episode.
I was wondering when you were going to bring that word up.
I know. I can't get through one episode with one writers without saying juxtapose. So I've got my ugly good, but then that's it for my regular goods, I guess. What about bads?
I only had a couple, and the two are, three actually. I had three. One is in the warehouse. Okay, so this group has been out and about enough to know that when you get that many walkers in a confined space, they better be behind like Jersey barriers or something really solid to keep them at bay. And I just thought that, seeing them against the fence in the warehouse, you couldn't have just done what you did at the prison and just kind of thinned them out a little bit. There's going to be more coming in, and that's going to take the gate down, take the fence down. So I thought it was, that was Glenn should have Glenn or even Tara, somebody, preferably Glenn, should have said, let's thin this out a little bit because this could be a problem later. The other thing was, how the hell did Sam get into Carol's house without her knowing it?
Sneaky kid.
That was the other thing, and she didn't even question it. It was just like, oh, you're here, which seemed odd for Carol. And then the last thing that I just did not like at all was I thought it was a huge jump to the end with, Rick and Pete. First of all, you don't trust Pete as far as you can throw him. Rick has just been skeevy, just weird, and not in a good way, with Jesse around and him and Pete in the same room together. It's just, they're both just going.
It was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable
because there was nothing about Pete. I didn't believe that Pete had. I'm going to throw a bunch of double negatives in here. I didn't believe that Pete did not know that Rick kind of had his eye on Jesse. In other words,
I think that's absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Pete's preloaded, right? He knows that. So
no, absolutely, and that's what all these visits are about.
Like the whole like let's be friends, man. That was just. But for me, at the end, Carol coming up to Rick and saying, Pete's hitting Jesse, or did she say? He's hitting them both. I don't know, but she basically says he's abusing them, and then the next leap that she makes is you're gonna have to kill him.
Right.
I didn't like that.
I didn't either.
That's too far.
Yeah, no, I agree, but that fits with her character at this particular juncture. She, that's her anxiety attack. Abraham's having his anxiety attack, Sasha was having her anxiety attack, and Carol's having hers, which is that, she's just got zero tolerance at all, and it either goes from you're okay or you're dead. There's just it's just no in between with her. I think an interesting thing about that though is that she says you have to kill him. Rick's never going to kill him,
right?
And this I think is going to come back to remember I said about the gun. I mean, what's the big deal? He's walking around town with a gun in his side. Who cares if he's got another gun behind him? It doesn't mean anything. And remember in the comic, when he pulls out the gun, it's because nobody has guns, and everyone's like, where did he get that gun? Holy cow, And it's like, fits in with this whole idea of Rick's gone wild, he's gone rogue, blah, blah, blah. And what's going to happen, I think, is Carol is going to pull out the gun.
That's what I think,
Pete.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then people are going to have that moment, like, why has she got a gun? And blah, 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 blah. Plus, she stole the gun. Sam knew. So they've really kind of created that situation, put it on. And they do that a lot where they take the scenarios in the books and they keep them, but they put them with different people and have it unfold a little differently. So, yeah, I agree. Any other bads?
No, those are it.
But I just to finish that thought, I agree with you. I thought that was bad, but I think they did it for that reason, because they're trying to get everybody thinking that it's going to be Rick confronting Pete, but I think maybe it'll end up being Carol. My bads. Why are they still baking cookies? It's the freaking apocalypse. Food is in short supply. Forget cookies. Cookies are done for a while. You know what I mean? That still blows my mind, No mercy kill for Aiden. I mean, when it becomes clear that he's going to, not going to, Glenn should have popped him in the head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's just, I mean, they obviously, wanted to have him go down while he was alive to make it even more gruesome. Jesse needs to find another pair of jeans that fit her. Now, I'm not a fashion maven, okay? as I sit here in my Z-Girl sweatshirt and my, sweatpants, but
your assless chaps.
That's right. But those pants, man, they wow, they were pretty bad. Another bad for me, which I think, remember I told you at the top, I had some bad that I think people were going to be kind of surprised at. A lot of people are praising this episode because of the gore and the realistic portrayal of the zombie deaths, or the human deaths by zombie with the chewing. Right. To me, that's a negative. The gore to me is gratuitous. It's not my cup of tea. I know that's hard to believe, given that this is a zombie. If you don't like gore, how can you dig zombie movies? But to me, the zombie scenario is all about the apocalypse, about the people. I mean, just like the reason we talk often about why Walking Dead is so successful. It's not about the zombies. It's about the people. It's about how they survive, how they change how they deal with this. The gratuitous gore and the guy, Aiden screaming up while they're ripping the guts out, and then Noah getting his face ripped out in front of Glenn. Now I understand, but that this is what people would be seeing in this kind of world. Their friends ripped apart in front of them. But the gore for me was just I don't know. I just don't feel it's always necessary. It can be more.
Okay. So you're okay if we explode a zombie's head open and you're okay if we do
it's
it to
already
the
dead.
undead. Oh, okay.
It's already dead. It's already dead. The last bet I had, and I don't want to get political or take the show in any kind of that way or anything, but it kind of has to be mentioned in my opinion. So the last 4 deaths of Team Rick deaths, and I feel like those are the deaths that matter. Aiden's death is not really, he's a red shirt today. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the last 4 deaths have been 1 white woman and 3 black men. And, I saw it on Twitter a lot. I've, seen a lot of posts about it again, and it keeps coming up. Now, part of the problem, I think, is that they went out of their way to introduce a lot more ethnic members to the cast to try and balance it. It was too lily white to begin with, and the book has never really been like that. So I was kind of surprised in the early season. So, and I think they did that, but then they've also chosen to have those characters be the ones that they take out. So it kind of like undermines their effort to diversify the cast, So, I mean, that I think is a disappointment. I think it's a detraction. Anytime that it's something like that starts to stand out, it takes you out of, for me, it takes me out of watching the show, out of the enjoyment and getting caught up in it. You start putting real world thoughts into it, and that kind of undermines the show a little bit. So I don't know if they're thinking about that or worried about that, or
do
you have any feelings on?
Well, it's when you look back at the cast that you've chewed through. I mean, look how long it was. The internet blew up about T-Dog's demise. Well, the next question is okay. So we lost Noah, which we were pretty certain Noah was going to go.
I think just before you make your point, I think the T-Dog, since you brought it up, the T-Dog thing was a little different because I think people were upset with the T-Dog scenario because first of all, he was the only ethnic character, and then they gave him no lines.
He was never developed, right?
It was never developed.
Yeah.
And then they killed him.
He was cannon fodder from day one, right?
Exactly.
So we've got 2 episodes to go, and we know that the body count's going to go up, right? And we know that we're going to lose some more people in the next 2 episodes. Definitely in the last episode. Everybody that we've got left, and you've got to have these deaths have to be meaningful, right? So which means that if we lose Pete, if we lose Deanna, if we lose anybody from Alexandria, we're not emotionally invested. We don't care,
right?
So it's got to be somebody from this group. Well, take a look at the group and who you're going to lose. Tara.
Yeah.
So now
I thought Tara should have been the one in the revolving door this week. That's who I think they should have done.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, your body count is going to be, the last 5 will be 2 women and 3 black, 3 black men. So, yeah, it's you're right. It is kind of.
Well, they've kind of created their own problem. One, like you said, they brought in a whole bunch of cast that was ethnic and an effort to try and diversify the cast. But then those are the ones that they're expending. And then they've also invested so much in, Rick is the main lead and Carl is son. And they, so they kind of are safe. Like you've talked about, Daryl has become so popular that people feel like he's kind of safe. I think Glenn is the one that's possible. If they're going to go out on the limb and try and, take somebody that's from the main cast, that might be a possibility, Yeah,
but, no, that's right.
I personally think we've seen I don't think we're going to lose any more of the main cast. That's my crazy prediction of the week.
Okay.
I think we will lose Alexandrians in the finale, but I don't think we're going to lose any of our main casts. Certainly not going to lose Michonne. We might lose Sash, I suppose. We're not going to lose Abraham. He just started to step up.
Yep.
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they'll take Rosita because I think they're going to want some baby mama drama between Francine and Abraham and Rosita. We talked about the idea that maybe Carl, because of the fact that there's a Judith in the TV show that there isn't in the comics, so that Rick still remains a father should he lose Carl. I don't know. I don't think we'll lose Maggie because I think Maggie's future, if at all based on the comics, is going to play out, and they seem to be leading us that way with all of her involvement in the government. With Diana. I don't think we're going to lose Eugene, because he's just started to step up, and then also, as you know from the comic, he plays a pretty big role down the road. I don't think that's going to happen. So.
I think the internet would blow up if Sasha died. I don't think they'd do that.
They didn't do Sasha either.
No.
I think it would be a mistake. Sasha's kind of being groomed to be the Andrea, as you talked about last week. I don't know.
No, that's a.
I think Tara. If anyone goes, it'll probably be Tara. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Tara or Carl. And if Carl goes, that will rock the internet.
Oh yeah.
That will definitely rock the internet. I think one of our listeners wrote in with a prediction that I think it was it Gary? Not sure. We'll get it to the letters, I guess. But anyway, that was similar to what we were just talking about. What about your ugly? Ugly, was it good or bad?
Oh, my ugly was good, and I got to go with the Abraham scene. Just him stepping up and taking control of that, and just getting surrounded by everybody, by the walkers, and just getting that sly look on his face, and just he was back in his element. So I love that, because I've been waiting for
Yes,
for weeks for that. So
no, and I agree with you, and I totally think he finally stepped up in a way that just worked for that character. And opens up a whole new, possibility for him in there. My ugly was also good, and pretty much it's just kind of a general statement about the writing and the directing of the whole overall episode. I just think it was one of the better written, directed. We had a lot of character growth. I think the other ugly is that it's just. The season has just continually, there has not been a slow moment, and it's just been a constant, race to the finale. And I hope the finale is not a letdown,
Right.
I don't think it will be, but I'm just impressed with how every episode has been chock full. And such a contrast.
And it was
to earlier seasons.
Like we said last episode, we've been kind of just hanging around in Alexandria, just kind of like biding, marking time. So I'm glad that Scott Gimple and Greg Nicotero listened to our podcast and were like, you know what, these guys are right, and we need to do something. And this was the week that
now they're going to stop listening after that. But the other thing I wanted to say,
Nicotero's going to take your tribute pieces out of his office.
Yeah, my Prince office to throw those puppies out. The other part of my ugly was that I just think the way that this episode built, that we talked about already, that this idea that there's almost like a civil war coming,
right? And
the sides are being defined, and positions are being taken, and the conflict is building, and it really is going to. It is essentially a civil war, and I thought that there was a great comment from on the Unbitten, a Walking Dead community, again on TV.com. I saw by Tim Surratt. I guess he did the review for that website. And he said, a fun fact, did you know that the first fatalities of the North and South in the American Civil War happened in Alexandria, Virginia?
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. So,
wow.
Civil War, baby. Civil War is on. So probably, next week, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it seems like we're going to get a little bit about Aaron and Daryl. Maybe like I think you suggested they're going to uncover the wolves or whatever. But I think the begin and why we need the 90 minutes, and you this may be reiterating what you already said, but I think they're going to have the Civil War is just going to come to a head in the finale, and there's going to be this conflict within the group and there's going to be chaos and all this problems internally, and then they're, like you said, they're going to get attacked, and then they're going to pull together, and Rick's going to lead them through the attack successfully, and they're going to realize, okay, this is a good thing. We need these people. We're going to survive, but we got to do it differently.
Well, it's his.
And Rick's got to lead.
When did he say it? 2 episodes ago, when he said, if they're too soft, we'll just take it from them. Right. So, for all intents and purposes, without really firing a shot, Rick and crew are going to take Alexandria because they'll lead them through this, and like in the comic, Monroe becomes his kind of so. I think we're going to get that moment. I think we're going to get that moment with Monroe. That transfer, that leadership transfer. Yep.
Where Deanna is going to say to Rick, we need you. You're right, and you show us the way.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I think we're going to get that moment. And I think that's it for my notes on that.
Character of the week.
Oh boy. I think probably Eugene, either Eugene or Abraham, I mean, and Glenn too. I mean, it was just, it's hard. They were all great, but definitely, we saw those Abraham and Eugene really step up in a way that we haven't seen yet. And that was wonderful to see. I mean, we've had plenty of times where Glenn's been heroic. But this was really a first for Eugene, and the first time that I think Abraham kind of got his shit together.
Yep. I'm gonna stay on the Abraham bandwagon, and he's my character of the week. Zombie kill of the week.
Loved the zombie with the body armor and the grenades.
I did too.
It was great to see. We haven't seen anything like that since the prison. And I love when they throw those kind of zombies in. I mean, I have to say, how many women in the zombie apocalypse were dressed in dresses when they died? It's like, right? I mean, almost every woman zombie you see has got this torn and tattered dress, and it's great. It looks cool. It looks scary. But I mean, I don't see half that many women in dresses like that, every day.
Right.
So it's cool when they mix it up and throw in something that's kind of more from the real. Like, I'd love to see people in hazmat suits. I'd love to see some zombies in, hazmat suits. That would be cool. I mean, there's lots of cool possibilities, for that. Definitely. So yeah, I think probably that'd be my zombie kill of the week.
Yep, that one's mine too.
Let's talk 1 second, because one of our writers writes in about it. But the idea that they didn't take out the zombies that are in the caged area. Lots of people I've been seeing complaining about that. I think Diane wrote in about it, but I also saw it online. A lot of people. What was your thinking on? What's your feeling on that?
Oh, that was one of my bads. I said that they should have thinned that herd out a little bit.
Yeah, to me, well, obviously, if they did that, then you wouldn't have the drama. You wouldn't have the opportunity to create the chaos and have the attack go on. So, from a story point of view, it was good to leave them in there. I don't know if I would take the time. You're trying to get in, get out, and get fast. Why would you take the time? You'd have to find long stake things to do it with. You wouldn't want to waste ammo. Why waste ammo on zombies that aren't even a threat? You know what I mean? So you'd have to spend 15, 20 minutes trying to...
about? They had knives. Tara busted open a box with
they had knives, but the zombies were packed into that room. I mean, you would only be able to get the ones right on the front there, with the knives.
Though. I mean, they were up against that fence. Nothing's holding anything back. That's, and like I said, Glenn's experience, in situations like that, he should have known that this is not going to hold very. So either we need to move our asses fast and get this stuff and get out, because they just kind of were like standing there, having a drink and a cigar and just kind of looking at the
I know.
what's on the other side of the fence. Either we need to speed this the hell up or
Yeah.
thin this herd out. So
Yeah. I'm going to change my zombie kill of the week. I just remembered one that I liked better than the grenade death. I loved that soldier, though. I loved it. That's still my favorite zombie of the episode. But Abraham's killing of the zombies underneath the tractor. That was cool when they were all starting to pile in enough, and he starts shooting them in the head with the M16 so that they start piling up and getting stuck behind that. It was really smart too, because then they couldn't go anymore, and it allowed him to pop out on the other side and get Francine set up so that and then he creates that like kill zone with the board there, so they can only come in through single file. What the hell was it that he was hitting them with? It wasn't an axe. It looked like a freaking medieval.
Yeah, it looked like a morning star, medieval morning star.
Yeah, with the big ball on the end and a chain, and I was like, "What the hell do you have that on a construction site for?" Yeah. But then again, weapon is a weapon, so they probably have lots of kooky weapons. But I thought that was kind of funny. He ends up breaking the ball off, and he's just got the stump. He's just smacking their heads with that. That was pretty funny. All right, so we got some letters.
All right. Let's see. So these are a couple from about the show in general. From Tom DeRosa, really great show, guys. Haven't written in a while, but have been listening every week, and it's getting better and more insightful and longer all the time. Keep up the good work. We mentioned how last episode was about 2 hours, and we were like, sorry about that, and everybody seemed to not mind. So
yeah, we got lots of comments about keep it going. So that's good.
James Chapman is a new listener and writer in. He's from Diane Maythorne. So per Diane Maythorne's suggestion, my girlfriend Marnell Steiner and I started listening to Biters. Marnell and James, welcome aboard.
Welcome.
I started on season 4, episode 1. Marnell started on 5-1, but now we're both into season 5 of the podcast. We've decided that we have to go back and rewatch the episodes along with each podcast. You guys are absolutely friggin' hilarious, and I can understand why Diane keeps recommending you. Keep up the fantastic work. Well, that's great to hear. Thank you very much.
That's sweet. Thank you so much.
And thank you for Diane for recommending us. P.S. What are you going to do about the spin-off show? Are you going to cover that in between season break of The Walking Dead? So that spin-off is going to come start in late summer, and it's 6 episodes. I think Kirk and I both responded to James, but yeah, I think we're gonna cover the show.
Absolutely. Talking
beforehand, Kirk said unless it sucks, and then we'll give it up after 2 or 3 episodes.
Yeah. If it's dying, then we may have to move on.
But yeah, we'll definitely be doing that. We were talking again before the show. We were talking about how iZombies started last night on the CW at 9:00 following the Flash. So,
right.
Was that last night or 2 nights
ago? Last night.
Okay.
Tuesdays.
Yeah. So we're not covering that just because of time kind of constraints with our normal lives, but Kirk and I both watched the first episode. We're saying that it's by the same creator or written by the same guy who did Veronica Mars, so it definitely has that feel. But it's a fun show. Really, like we both like the writing and the it's not a procedural. It's kind of quirky and some actually really interesting characters in there.
Yeah, I thought she has the coroner is great. I love his accent. I love that he's kind of like, from a scientific point of view, he's like totally enamored with her and all that, that she represents, and he's like all into it, and that's cool. I thought the cop was great, and I like their relationship, I like how she's playing the role, it's just kind of like, she has almost kind of this flat affect, but yet very sarcastic kind of under the undercurrent, and I like that a lot. Yeah, it's got a little bit of humor to it. It had. I love how they're treating her zombiness.
Hmm.
You know, like when she doesn't get the brains, she starts to get more zombie-like. I love that there's like a zombie rage power almost that kind of goes with it. The way they're treating her eyes. I was very impressed, and something we were talking about it before we started recording, and something I forgot to mention that I liked was the intro. It's based on a comic book, as I think you mentioned, and they've taken the original artist Mike
Allred.
Allred did the intro credits, so they've got the characters from the TV show done in the style that he did the character in the comic, in this cool kind of cut flyby
Montage, yeah.
montagey comic book style. And in fact, in the interior of the show, they open up each chapter or each break from the commercials with a still of the opening shot done in
Yeah.
with some comic book treatment over it, and then it slowly burns into the real video. So I thought that was kind of cool and fun, and yeah, I think it's great. I recommend it. I think everybody should give it a try. And we, like Jeff said, we just don't have time to cover it on a regular basis, but certainly we can chat about it if there's stuff going on.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a couple episodes during the break of
Oh, that's a good idea.
Walking Dead.
Yeah, because we're so good at doing that. poor James and Marnell are going to find out our ability to do shows in between during the breaks has been sporadic, to say the least. Marnell Steiner wrote in, I have a small rant, and we just talked about this a little bit. You have survived years in the zombie apocalypse, and you haven't learned to shoot the fish in the barrel before the fish break out and eat you. Seriously, how many times have they walked away from a bunch of walkers behind a flimsy fence only to have it come back to bite them in the ass, literally? The effort it takes to knife a small horde in the head compared to having to deal with them when they inevitably break out at the least opportune time. What's the deal with that? And I think, we kind of discussed it. I think Jeff thinks you're 100% right, and I think it's a good point, but I'm not sure if I would take the time in that scenario to do that. Plus, from a story point of view, obviously, it was nice to have a huge attack as a result of that stupid Aiden grenade shot.
Yeah. All right. Diane
Let's see what else.
Maythorne. I'm so glad that loser was zombie food. I was just terrified about who else might go in the process. I was sad about the losses, but less invested in the outcomes than I feared I might be. Then she posted again saying, I'm wondering if the head injury in this episode, Tara, might replace the head injury that takes place in the future in the comic books. What do you think about that?
The head injury to Tara?
Yeah.
And which head injury in the comics?
I was trying to. I wonder if she's alluding to Carl, maybe.
Oh.
I don't know, because there's several head injuries. Diane, you need to
specify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which head injury?
Yeah, we are talking about The Walking Dead. we got limbs flying everywhere, body parts. Head
But I
injuries.
took it to be. I was wondering if she.
Yeah,
meant
you're probably
the
right.
Carl.
You're probably right. I don't think so. What do you think?
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I don't think that's filling in for that.
And then might I just add, WTF, Rick and Carol and Rick. They're turning into some seriously scary people. If I were out there in the zombie apocalypse, I would just want to be 100% sure they were both on my side. No doubt.
Amen. Let's see. Leslie Cox wrote in, oh my, where do I start? I better get it over and say that I loved this episode. 4.8 headshots. We had the same score, Leslie. It was brilliant. We had action in the form of some gory deaths, character development, Eugene in particular, and foreshadowing with Noah's story arc playing out in the episode. I knew he was for the chop once he wrote, "This is the beginning." One thing's for sure, the honeymoon is over and we're beginning to see the problems building up for both groups. Yeah, I think that's true. Good. Loads of things. It was all good, but I'll go with Eugene. He reminded me of a character in another of my favorite programs, Game of Thrones, Samwell Tarly. In Game of Thrones, he has two quotes which were directly relevant to this episode with Eugene. First, quote, "I'm a coward," and quote, "I'm not cut out for this type of work." That's essentially what Eugene says. And in the case of both characters, they step up despite their obvious fear. To me, that's the opposite of cowardice. Acting heroically in the face of fear is true bravery. He's a clever man, too. Hope he stays in the show.
That's a good analogy, bringing up Samuel Tarly from Game of Thrones.
I hate to admit it, but I don't watch Game of Thrones. I mean, I know I'm missing out, but there's just only so much, But I'm gonna have to go back and at some point binge watch that. I've watched parts of one episode, parts of two different episodes. I could definitely see it was awesome, but I just don't have the time. Bad. Obviously, this is Leslie's bad. Obviously, Father Gabriel. I hate what he did, but I understand it a bit too. If you compare the two churches he's been associated with since the apocalypse, the original one and this new temporary one, you can see the huge difference. One is now associated with death, loneliness, murder, and fear, whereas this new one, strawberries. I think we're supposed to see that Father Gabriel does not feel valued by Rick's group because he's a liability more than anything, but in this new place, he's valued and appreciated. I think that's why he went to Deanna. That's an interesting point, and I think it's an interesting point, and it's somewhat some fuel for that argument is the strawberries and the letter and the idea that he's appreciated and. But I still don't understand why he rips the pages out of the book. I mean, I guess he's just conflicted. He feels like this is the place. This place wants him, but he doesn't maybe feel like he deserves it or something. I don't know. Anyway, her ugly. The signs of problems coming up. I think they'll be centered around justice, retribution, and authority. Rick's leadership and Deanna's leadership will clash. Nasty Nick is going to cause problems with Glenn. Gets back to Alexandria. He's going to die. He's going to lie almost certainly, and he's going to cause a huge dichotomy in Alexandria. Can't wait to see how that turns out. Character of the week. Way to go, Eugene. Kill of the week, Abraham bashing zombie skulls with a grin on his face. It's fabulous. Oops, I did it again. I rambled. Unsure. Unsure emoticon. Okay, that was great. Nice letter, Leslie. Let's see what else you're gonna read. Laura.
So Laura Will Swink wrote in. She said I mentioned how she said that she hasn't watched it a second time because Mystery Science Theater 3000 is what they do with the first episode, but R.I.P. or first viewing, but R.I.P. poor Noah, you did nothing but get Beth and Tyrese killed, and then when you finally contemplating having hope and imagining your future, then you got bit several times. And what the hell, Carol? Now she's having others do her killing for her on a hunch? Is there something wrong with at least talking to Jesse woman to woman? That's actually a really good point.
Yep.
We got to jump immediately to judge, jury, and executioner for Pete the Porch Dick? Yikes. Don't ever get on Carol's bad side or even her slightly irritable side. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, no, I think I would totally agree. But I think that's her PTSD. That's her, craziness that's resulting from living in this total denial of Alexandria. She also, the other thing about Noah is that, and maybe they did this on purpose, but we talked. I said that I would have rather have seen Tara be the one to go this week rather than Noah. By Noah dying, it kind of completely undermines Beth's death.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, Beth's death was pretty bad to begin with because of the way it happened and the way she did it. I mean, we've gone over that, So the only thing that was kind of redeeming about it is that all of her efforts and everything, although it didn't really save him, but she did save him. So in her death, she kind of ties to his survival in my mind. So by him dying so quickly and so stupidly, not stupidly, but so haphazardly, again, it kind of undermines that. I don't know. Did you feel that way?
Afterwards, when I thought about it, I was like, I came to
I didn't think about it while it was happening, but Tom Reese wrote in. He gave the episode 4.5 headshots. Great episode, great action, great deaths, and great character development without feeling too stretched. First off, in response to Laura's question last week, most heroic moment, I have to go with Shane when he and Otis went to get the medical supplies to save Carl. He fought his way through hundreds of walkers, jumped out a window, and killed a man in cold blood to save Carl's life. The good Rick in the case of the broken owl. At first, I thought Rick did it as an excuse to be around Jesse. The Rick and Dr. Pete dilemma. He's an abusive douche that's got to die, but he's the only doctor in town. I'm pretty sure when he saves Tara's life and possibly Carl's in the finale, Rick's attitude will change.
That's interesting.
That's a very good, very insightful idea there. I think he's onto something. I think you're onto something there, Thomas. Daryl's bike is kick ass. I'm glad they didn't waste any time kick-starting that storyline. Daryl and Aaron on the road. Yeah. Aiden's humility made me smile, and his death made me cheer. Eugene stepped up. He found the inverters, saved Tara, drew the walkers away, and stopped Nicholas from leaving. Noah's dead. Yay. The rotating door scene was awesome, and the special effects of Noah's face getting torn apart were amazing. Carol and Sam. At first, it seemed like she didn't want anything to do with Sam because he's one of them, or wanted to just distance herself from the guns. But as the scene went on, it seemed like she was scared to get attached. The bad. Alexandrians are a bunch of pussies. How have they survived for 2 years if every time there's trouble they abandon each other? The ugly, and it's a bad ugly. Gabriel. I think he's turning against the group because he's hoping they're exiled. As long as they're around, there'll be a constant reminder, yep, I totally agree with this, of what he did to his parish. He's a coward and won't last long. I think I think there's a good chance he could go down.
Yeah.
Which would, again, divvy up the total, would add to the total there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Crazy predictions. I think I've started a trend. Crazy predictions. Carl's going to be holding Judith when he's shot in the finale, and you're not going to know if she's dead or not. Interesting.
Yeah.
So the whole prison sequence, he's suggesting might take place here instead, with Laurie and Judith in the prison. Instead, it's going to be Carl and Judith here. Great idea. Super theory. Character of the week, Eugene. Zombie kill of the week, grenade zombie.
I'm going to go back to he mentioned the grisly death of
Aiden.
Noah. Aiden and Noah, and your comment about how you didn't like the grisly death, and I think that
the gore,
yeah. I liked them. I thought it was, especially the tearing away of Noah's face. And I almost think that it's, for me, because we're so used to zombies and we're so used to the caving their heads open and stomping on them and doing all this stuff, that they almost don't seem real. Like, yeah, there's the threat, what they do and stuff like that. And I almost think that you almost have to go when a human dies by a zombie, you almost need to take it up another level just to reinforce that these things are deadly and what they can do to you and just how awful they are. So I kind of, for me, it doesn't bother me, and I rationalize it that way.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I think that the show, it has been a long time since the show had shown that kind of death. Everybody that's been dying recently has been from like a single bite,
right,
or something like that. Bob's got a single bite, and Beth took a bullet to the head, and Tyrese got a single bite, and I think the last mauling death like that may have been. Oh, was it Dale?
Oh.
Was Dale the last mauling death like that? Because he got munched on,
right?
And they were tearing open the stomach and ripping out the guts and everything else.
Maybe.
Interesting. I don't know. I have to maybe if our listeners know, they could post up. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I understand, and it's a zombie movie. I also read where people were saying that, and it's been a long time since I saw Day of the Dead, but Day of the Dead had a sequence very much like the Aiden death. I guess it was almost, for not verbatim, and Nicotero was the special effects guy on Day of the Dead.
Oh.
So people are saying that, it was kind of a little tip of the hat to that death in that movie. So, but, and then what do we got? We got,
all right. I got one more. We got Gary Dombrowski. who wrote in twice. His first one was really simple and to the point, Mother Dick. And then the second one was...
I couldn't believe when he said that. I literally tweeted because I was live tweeting. Did he just say Mother Dick? Because I could not. I was watching it live, so I couldn't rewind or
Right.
whatever. I was like, I didn't think I heard what I heard. You know, I was like, did he really just? And I was serious. Like, did he really just say Mother Dick? And then I saw all these tweets of people saying Mother Dick and hashtag Mother Dick. And I was like, he did say it. I couldn't believe it. It was great.
How long before this becomes a T-shirt?
I know. Oh, I'm sure it already is. I'm gonna work it into my tribute.
So Gary followed up with, "Wow, what an episode! The good, seeing Daryl leaving Alexandria on his new bike to go with Aaron on a recruiting mission. I wonder if they'll return in time to witness any fallout, the results from the group's disastrous trip to get parts for the solar panels. Self-proclaimed coward Eugene proves heroic, saving Tara in the process. Will Pete unknowingly save his own skin by saving Tara's life? Maybe he'll at least get a stay of execution. Fellow Alexandrian Tobin turns out to be quite the stand-up guy. I was not expecting him to tell Deanna that Abraham is more suited to be in charge of the construction crew instead of him. A little gee whiz info. The hosts of the Walker Stalker podcast played the walkers that were crawling under the tractor trying to get at Abraham.
Ah.
No way. Huh. The bad. Never shoot at a walker wearing body armor with grenades on it at short range. Did Aiden reveal that the 4 Alexandrians that died on a foraging expedition was his fault? Yeah. The ugly. Father Gabriel is a few people short of a choir. What's up with Maggie? She should have called him out on his revelations to Deanna as soon as he was finished speaking. I've seen this online too. A bunch of people had said the same thing. Why didn't Maggie step out and, confront him? And I don't know. I didn't have a problem with it. I think that she's one of two things. One, she's probably just too stunned to even do it. That's just crazy. And second of all, I think that she'd want to take that to Rick and say, "Hey, you need to know what's going on."
If she's smart, and I think again coming back to the writing, they were showing us how smart our Team Rick people are and how savvy they are, and they don't just go charging in.
Right.
And this was another example of that. She's listening, she's hearing the whole thing, but she's realizing if she goes running out there right now, anything she says is going to immediately be seen by Diana as defensiveness, and so the smart thing to do is to know that this, and then go and kind of organize your strategy for how you're going to deal with it.
And it also tips a hat to the kind of politician / leader that Maggie will eventually be.
Right.
Gary continues with, I'm guessing the good father did not reveal much of his own history in his audition video. Carol is turning out to be quite the Black Widow. For a second time, a woman on the show is putting Rick up to killing a man that poses a threat. It harkens back to when Lori, quote, Lady Macbeth, suggested that Rick should kill Shane. Other than being a drunk, what evidence do we have that Pete is abusive? The show could be setting us up to be thrown for a loop. Poor Noah. There was a totally unexpected and most gruesome death. Noah should have known better than to have any ambitions in the zombie apocalypse. Will Aiden's friend be forthcoming about what happened at the warehouse? I don't think so. Gary's bold prediction: another member of Rick's group will die within the next 2 episodes.
I don't know. I'm not completely sold that Nicholas. I think 2 things. I think we're being led down a path by our nose about Pete, and it's just almost too. He's not going to get killed. He's not. Well, if he gets killed, it's not going to be because Rick shoots him for this abusiveness. And in the comic, again, spoiler alert. He doesn't get. This isn't how he gets. He doesn't get killed. Rick doesn't kill him. So there's a confrontation, but he doesn't end up dying. And I think the idea that he's going to do some stuff medically that's going to pull his fat out of the fire a little bit, I think is a great theory. And I think that's going to play a part. I think they're trying to make us, again, it was to try and show Carol's craziness, but also to try and get us going one way, and then they're going to take us another. And the same thing with Nicholas. I think everyone is under the assumption that Nicholas is going to be like a total coward and say, this was all their fault. But what we did see is that some of the Alexandrians, when push came to shove, like Tobin, they stepped up and did the right thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if Nicholas doesn't come to you and say, to tell the truth. I don't know, just because we're not expecting that.
So here's my crazy prediction.
All right. We got that for next week. I promise to have a new intro for the crazy prediction.
All right, we're gonna need one. Okay, so given how we've got internal strife, and how basically what I said about how I think the final episode is going to be internal strife, they're divided. That's when the Horde comes, or if not the Horde, the wolves.
The wolves, right? It's got to be the wolves or both.
Yeah.
But I mean, they've built those guys up so much.
They're going to attack Alexandria. Rick steps up to the plate. There's the transfer of leadership that we talked about, but still it's going to look like the odds are against them. Who comes in to save the day but Daryl and Aaron bringing in another group from behind and then helps beat the bad guys. And the person that we meet that Daryl's made friends with will introduce himself as Negan. And that's how you're going to, and there'll be deaths. I'm leaning towards the Carl. I think we're gonna lose Tara, but I think it's gonna be a cliffhanger kind of thing where you're gonna see like Carl shot, and then you get to wait until October to see, is he dead, not dead. I think it's gonna be a gruesome thing, but I do think that we're going to meet Negan.
Wow,
that's my crazy prediction.
That is a pretty crazy prediction. I don't think so. I think that Negan is coming, but I think we're going to get a lot of other things first, as we've talked about before. But that is crazy. I think the Daryl idea is definitely a possibility. I think that they maybe will get wind of what's coming through their, remember they got the listening equipment that they have and everything else, and they may be in a race to get back to warn them. And they may come just at the time before the wolves get there, but right when Alexandria is about to explode internally, and they kind of will, I'm just fine tuning what you said, but they'll basically kind of say, guys, you got to make peace because we got a bigger threat coming. But it would be cool to have them kind of ride in kind of the way that Carol did at Terminus,
right?
And from kind of a left field. I wanted to mention that we had a new, I don't know if he's listening. If he's listening, I hope so. But we had a new follower of our Biters podcast Twitter account. I don't know if you noticed this. Robert K. Maxfield started following us, and he is the boom operator for the AMC TV show The Walking Dead.
Oh,
so
awesome.
Welcome, Robert. We're glad you're listening to our tweets. I'm assuming that you're following us because you maybe have listened to our podcast, and if so, welcome. And that's a cool thing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So once again, I'm behind, as per usual, on my tribute this week. It's I tell you, the ones that are memorials are tough, because again, this episode had so much in it, and so much that I'd love to show, and yet I really feel like it's kind of got to have an emphasis on Noah because it's also good, his memorial piece, so it's going to be jam packed. I'll tell you that. All right.
Well, it's been almost 2 hours, so
that's our new goal. Our new goal next week, we got to go 2 hours.
Well, wait, hold on a second, because what are we going to do when it's 90 minutes on the finale? We're going to be on for like 5 hours.
No, we got to do two-parter.
We're going to have to turn this into a telethon.
We got to do a two-parter.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I know, 90 minutes. That's going to be, but, if there's a lot of fighting, then that, doesn't need a lot of exposition. But
All right. So what I might do is tomorrow on the Facebook page is I'll put up put up a post and just basically invite people to put up your crazy predictions. Let's see what.
Crazy predictions. And I thought Laura's idea, and it looked like who was it that responded to it?
It was Thomas.
Thomas, yeah, his her suggestion was to pose a question for everybody. Was it for everybody to respond to, or for us to respond to? Yeah. So I thought that's a cool idea, and we could do that too.
All right.
Don't forget to check out zgirlandthefourtigers.org. The comic book that Jeff writes and I illustrate, a story of a female zombie warrior who is the leader of a special ops team that fights all manners of monsters and demons in the Department of Irregular Warfare. It's a lot of fun and action-packed, and we think you'll dig that. You can also follow us on Twitter. We have Biters Podcast at Biters Podcast. Blah, 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 blah. Why don't you say that one, Jeff?
At Biters Podcast.
That's right. Jeff is also at J Marzik, and I'm at BatmanKM. What else? Well, you can also email us if you would like, rather than posting on the Facebook page at biterspodcast@gmail.com.
And if you download us on iTunes or any place else, leave a rating for us and give us reviews and tell your friends about us. And
definitely check out southgatemedia.com as well. There's like 50, 60 other podcasts, great podcasts from everything from Doctor Who to basically all the main shows are covered. I mean, they got them all covered, and they do a good job. And they're a great group of people. And definitely, I'm going to echo Jeff's comments. If you get a chance to do a review on iTunes, it's a huge help. It helps elevate us in the pool of podcasts for Walking Dead, and will get us seen and more followers. And so we appreciate that.
All right.
All right, guys.
That's all we got. We'll be back next week when we talk about the penultimate episode for the season.
So now,
Kirk just grabbed his dictionary, looking that one up.
Don't ask me to spell it. So the next episode is try.
Yep.
And then we get conquer. Interesting. Yep. Try. Okay, that's interesting.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week.
All right. Check you out. Bye-bye.